Good evening, everyone. Please do let me know in the chat if you can hear me. We will begin shortly, so please do get settled in. If you've never been to this class before, please do feel free to introduce yourself. As you'll notice on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a few icons. There is a chat icon, as well as a few other ones, so familiarize yourself with those. I will be posting our poll, our weekly poll, very shortly. So thank you so much. So do let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. But we will begin. For joining me, my name is Phynne Belle. I am your instructor for this SocietyX session called Get Inspired and Speak Up. So I am a co-director of the Poetry Global Network, as well as the organizer for my own platform, which is called Phynncabulary. It brings poetry to our global poetry community, poetry programs, as well as other events that are surrounding literacy and learning about poetry, learning about different forms of literature. So in every session, we like to focus our energies on building effective skills that get us right into the act of writing. What is began at this inception point of this class could very well be fully fleshed out and turned into a full story or a full poem, which you might decide eventually to submit to a literary journal or to share in a live space, say, for example, an open mic, be that an online open mic or a live one. I'd like to also make this your space to develop and strengthen your knack for storytelling, both written and spoken. So usually a session would go like this. First, you will be given the initial spark, which is 5 prompts in succession. Next, we will engage in what I like to call writing sprints. And these writing sprints, I call them this because this is where you free write in a comparatively shorter period of time. And you do not pause at this time in the process to edit anything. I'd like you to leave your inner editor outside the door. Finally, if time permits in this class, usually we go 45 minutes of doing the prompts. If we have a last remaining 15 minutes left, I'd like to give that opportunity for you to come up on the live with me to share your work. So I did say that I'm giving you shorter periods of time because I do believe that only allows for you to just write, and not give any thought to editing grammar, editing the syntax of it, going back and looking at the way that you had formed any sentences, line breaks, what have you. You can go back and do that later. You have the whole week to go in and polish your piece. Today is all purely about writing. That being said, since we are more than a year into this class, I'd still like you to engage in short bursts of writing, but we're going to be extending it a little bit longer. Let's see how long you can sustain doing a writing period of free writing without editing, longer and longer periods of time. You are stretching that muscle. So instead of concentrating on 5 writing prompts in succession, instead we're going to be doing about 3 to 4, time permitting, but allowing for a longer period to chew on, contemplate, think about each of the prompts and ask those prompts questions. So again, just to recap, I will present the prompts. You will stop to consider the prompt for a bit and then get right into the writing of it. And then please do remember that there is no editing at this point. Just keep on writing, write whatever is the first thoughts in your mind, your first impressions to the prompt. Even if you're not writing anything that makes sense, just write it down on the paper. And then when we complete all these prompts, you're going to have the opportunity to share them should you feel comfortable to do so in this space. Do remember that this is a safe space. So that being said, I would like to get right into it, but remember that we always start these classes with such good energy. So please do join me in taking one deep cleansing breath in through your nose, hold it, and then let it come out in a big whoosh through your mouth. If it helps you to close your eyes doing this, please do so. Let us begin. So one deep breath through your nose. And out. I hope that felt good. So we are going to start with our first prompt. To get us revving and starting our engines and just really get into the juice of it, I'd like us to start with a warm-up. Remember that last week we were talking about word associations. Now we are moving from word associations to what I think is a logical next step, from word associations to moods and emotions. Because here's my reasoning. As we know, the thoughts and images and words that we instantly link with words tie in with things like experience and very heavily on moods and emotions currently being experienced. So today we are going to engage in writing to prompts that let us examine moods and emotions. So the warm-up first, you will have 2 minutes to write to this. For your warm-up, I would like you to assign an overall mood today. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Assign your overall mood. So think what your overall mood was for this day. You might have, had shifts in moods like angry, anxious, happy, but think what the overlaying emotion is. And I'd like you to assign a color to that. Think about the color right now. And once you've thought about it, please free write to it. You have 2 minutes to do so. Okay, folks, time is up. I hope that warm-up helped you to get your thoughts and your brain in the right frame of mind to continue some sustained writing. So we're going to move right into our first official prompt. Now, each prompt is going to have 8 minutes for you to stop and just contemplate it for a bit and then write to it. So our first prompt is, I'd like you to respond to these phrases. I'm going to give you 2 phrases. One of them is on the emotion happy, and the other one is on angry. And I'd like you to give a response to these phrases. So if it's going to be a guttural response, I suggest you go with that. If you want to delve a little bit more into it, like I said before, ask the prompt questions. That's the way that you get from the prompt to the next step, and then to the next step, from there to the next step. It's how you cultivate the story, at least how I cultivate a story, is I always ask the last step questions. I ask the prompt questions, and then I ask the last thing I did questions. So for the happy emotion, I would like you to respond to this. Happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know. Happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know. This is a quote from The Garden of Eden, Ernest Hemingway. For the second one, angry, I'd like you to respond to angry. And you're responding to this phrase. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. This is by Mark Twain. Let me repeat that. Anger is an acid that can do more to harm the vessel in which it's stored than anything on which it's poured. Okay, so begin writing. If you didn't catch all of that, no worries. I'm going to put that in the chat. You have 8 minutes. That time begins now. Okay, we're moving right along. Time is up. But before we move to the next prompt, I want to point out to everybody, if you've never attended the class before, there is a poll on the fence where the items are. There is the poll and it's lighted up. You are free to answer that. It's optional if you wanted to. Basically what that is, it's a weekly poll that helps me to form the syllabus for following weeks. So really helpful. As you see, this one involves asking whether you guys like the optional assignments that I assign every week. If they're useful to you, if they're useful to your creative writing process. So please feel free to answer that. That would be really lovely. The second thing that I want to point out is the offers button. No, I'm not offering to sell anything, but this is the way that SocietyX wants us to, for our free classes that we offer through them, to allow you to give your instructor a tip or a donation should you feel inclined to so, and it's within your means to do so. We would very much appreciate it. It helps us, keep going, and buys us a coffee, buys us poetry books so we can read more and inform ourselves, and also helps our other programs, keep our other programs afloat. So do please consider doing that if it is within your realm to do so. So we're going to move on to the next prompt. And so this prompt, I would like you to write from the perspective of an inanimate object. Write from the perspective of an inanimate object in love with another inanimate object. Write from the perspective of an inanimate object in love with another inanimate object. So stop and try to think of a few parts of that. What would most embody, what type of thing would most embody an object that would fall in love? You can be whimsical, you can be really literal, you could think of the Eiffel Tower. So stop and think of that. And then ask yourself the question, why? Why would they be in love with this other object? What is the reasoning behind it? What is the backstory to it? What is the history to it? So contemplate all that. Again, you have 8 minutes to do so, and I will post your prompt in the chat. So begin writing. Happy writing, everybody. Everyone, let's tie up any loose ends that we're writing on that prompt. Any impressions? Please do let me know what you thought about that prompt, how it made you feel. What are thoughts that popped up in your mind? What your inanimate object it was? Do let me know in the chat. And we will move on to the next one, the next prompt. So we are now on prompt number 4. We all know that emotions can capture us in a very powerful maelstrom of thoughts and actions. And these actions are often circular. They're often cyclical. So I'd like you to write a poem or a story where a powerful phrase is repeated. Kind of like a pantoum, but without the structure. Think of one, think first of your emotion that you want to concentrate on, and think of a phrase that you associate it with, either something from a book, something that was said in a conversation, something that is tied in with that emotion. Say, for example, the emotion was anger. And the powerful phrase is, "You never should have done that." I'd like you to repeat that in your poem or your story. I'd like you to repeat that phrase. You never should have done that, or whatever your phrase is. So again, we have 8 minutes to do that. After the 8 minutes, I'm going to pause from giving you your prompts. I'm going to give you your optional homework, and then we will finish out with the last prompt. And I think time will allow us to do a little bit of sharing. Again, the sharing portion, bottom of your screen, you'll see there's the speak button, which is the raised hand icon. That is how you get onto the live with me. Alrighty, so one more time. Emotions can capture you in a powerful maelstrom. of thoughts and actions that become a cycle. So I'd like you to write a poem or a story where a powerful phrase is repeated. 8 minutes, please. I'm going to try to say this softly as to not interrupt your train of thought. For anybody who came in, if you have any questions whatsoever, please do put them in the chat. The chat icon is right there. I think everybody's familiar with it. It's the two little conversation boxes, the icon. And also, if you have any questions for me, you can also email me in between the classes. I understand that class is only an hour, so not much time to cover a lot of things. So if you want anything to be expanded, please do feel free to email me, and I will repost that email in the chat. Send 2 minutes on the clock. Remember, don't stop to edit anything. Continue free writing. Just really lean into the writing. Turn off that inner editor. Okay, so we're almost at the end. We have one more prompt to go. But before we do that, I would like to introduce you to your optional homework. Remember that I stress optional because this is for your enrichment. You don't have to turn this in, obviously. You don't have to even share it with me, but you are free to share it with me or share the result of it via email. I'm always happy to look at your works that you do, regardless of what your purpose is. If you want me to just read it, just so I could see it, that's wonderful. If you want me to comment on it or offer advice or help you edit it, I'm happy to do that. Go ahead and contact me. But primarily, this is for your enrichment. This is to give you a project to do. If you are floundering around all week saying, what do I do the next day? What do I do the next day? The way that I set up these homework is that I like them to be a sustained project that you do over the week. So, starting with the rough draft writing of it, the fleshing out of ideas, creating your little storyboard. I don't know if you do storyboards for your writing or Pinterest boards. I do both. If you want a little bit more information on how I do that, I'm happy to share that with you as well. And finally, at the tail end of the week is going back in, letting it simmer for a while, and revisiting it after a few days and looking at it with new eyes and saying, this is something I could change. This is something that I can add to. Remember, because it's a part of this class. This class is titled "Get Inspired and Speak Up." The speak up part is also for you. It's not just to speak up in this class and kind of build up your courage to do that part, but also speak up in the silence of your home. Be saying your poems out loud. There is a certain rhythm that is missing from just reading it on the page. When you hear it out loud in your own voice, you're able to listen to its cadence, listen to its natural rhythm, and see if there's any way that you can restructure its line breaks to make it convey exactly what you want to say. Because remember, it's conveying in the words, but it's also conveying it in the delivery of it. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so optional homework. I want you to create a mesostic poem that is crafted around one emotion. And I'd like you to use the emotion or word idea that you associate with it as a central word. So I know you're asking the question, what is a mesostic poem? So a mesostic poem, much like that very beloved acrostic, it begins, the acrostic begins each line with the successive letter of one word. And the difference between a mesostic and an acrostic is that the mesostic places itself in the middle of the poem. And this allows the poem to build itself around that central word. So if that didn't make any sense to you, say, for example, you're making an acrostic poem of the word, of the first letters of the alphabet, A, B, C. So it would begin with something like, ask me the next question, and then the next line would be B, be it something, something, and then the next line would C. What you're doing with a mesostic is that you're putting that word in the middle of your poem. And I'm about to share screen so that I can share my version of a mesostic with you. I wrote this on the fly earlier today, so please excuse if it doesn't make any sense or it's not the best writing in the world. I'm going to work on it a little bit. But here's an example of a mesostic. So do let me know if you could see it or not see it. So this is mesostic. It's the word love, and I highlighted that in red in the middle. So the poem says, your soul answers mine across eons, timelines, remembering. Our voices trail comets, leave transmissions for our future lives, our future hearts to find. So you'll notice that the poem is actually about that love, but it includes the actual word in the middle of the poem. That's the beauty of it. That's part of the beauty of it. So I'd like you to do that for your assignment. I'm going to also post that in the chat so you can see that one more time. And if you have any questions in between, like I said, do let me know. So assignment first, let me post that. And then we're going to get right into our very last prompt of the session. Apologies on the delay. My computer is deciding to be really sticky. Oh, also, if you want more information on the mesostic, I'm also providing you with a resource. So you can click on that link, copy and paste everything, and click on the link. So it's going to bring you to the resource. Another thing you could do too, I know this is a really easy cheat, is just click on it right now and then save that tab so you can look at it later. Okay, so last, excuse me, last prompt of the evening. I'm undergoing a cold, guys. I'm sorry. My voice is just icky. So I lost my page. Last prompt. Please flesh out in a short story piece or a long story if you feel the urge to do so and let everything out. I'd like you to flesh out an apology, declaration, promise, or comfort that you never received. Flesh out an apology, declaration, promise, or comfort that you never received. I want you to do this in the voice of the person who you imagined saying it. You have 8 minutes to do so. And given that you have 8 minutes, unfortunately, we might not have time to do sharing. We might have maybe 3 minutes. So I'm going to only be able to allow one person onto the live to share should you choose to do so. So since we're going to be cutting into the time, here's what we're going to do is I was just looking at the timer when I started this session, and it actually allows me for about 8 more minutes. So after the timer goes off, we can go ahead and start sharing. So go ahead, and if you want to join the live and share your piece with the rest of the class out loud, go ahead and hit that speak button right now, and I will pull you on with me. If you've never done this before, it's going to kick you out for a little bit and then put you back into the session. So if you choose to do that, don't get alarmed if you get kicked out. It's just going to do a sound check and bring you back into the session. So if you want to share a piece out loud at the end of the session, go ahead and hit that speak. 2 more minutes, folks. Do let me know if you want to share by hitting the speak button. If you want to share a few lines or talk a little bit post-session, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. I don't think SocietyX will kill me for adding an extra 5 minutes to the session. So go ahead and hit the speak button right now if you wanted to share your poem out loud or share your story, a bit of your story out loud. And effectively concludes our session. I noticed that nobody wanted to jump onto the live. That's totally fine. It's a safe space, and I want you to feel not pressured to have to share a piece aloud if you don't feel that you're ready to do so. If at any time you want to, you're feeling brave enough, there's always other sessions you could do so. But I'm going to give a last call and give it about a minute for you to respond. If you'd like to share your piece out loud, there is the speak icon, which is the orientation on my screen, at least. It's the very bottom of all the icons. If you want to share a little bit of your piece, do so. Otherwise, in about a minute, we will close the session. So you can join to share. You'll see that there is a speak button. It's the hand raise button at the right-hand side of your screen, and you click on that. Thank you for attending, GJ. I'll see you again next week. So yeah, let me allow you a little bit of time to do that. And if you're able to, sometimes if it's your first session that you're attending, Webinar Jam can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, feel free to hit that button and you can share your piece. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to allow you on and hang tight while it does a sound check for you, okay? Just wait for Tanisha to come on. If she doesn't, that means she got kicked out of the session. We'll just wait a few more minutes. Okay, so it looks like it's past the time. Usually it takes just a few seconds to do the sound check. So hopefully she will rejoin the next session. But this is our time together, folks. As always, I enjoyed it. Please utilize this resource. Email me. I want your writing career and or practice or whatever you're doing with your writing to flourish and be part of your daily practice. That's the beauty of it. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. Oh, looks like somebody's coming on. So let's go ahead and try that one more time. False alarm. Okay. Looks like Tamisha wants to come back on. Let's try it again one more time. Okay, looks like that failed too. All right, so have a very good evening. Have a very good weekend. And for those of you who are returning, I will see you again next week. Happy writing.